The courtroom was tense, buzzing with whispers as a man in worn boots and a faded jacket stepped forward. He carried no briefcase, no polished suit, only a quiet dignity. His name was Jack Miller, a decorated veteran, a single father, and a man who had been through more battles than most could imagine. But today, Jack wasn't fighting a war overseas. He was standing in court, battling for custody of his little girl. Across the room sat the opposing counsel, sleek, sharp, and armed with documents meant to paint Jack as unfit, and presiding over it all was Judge Rebecca Thornton, a brilliant but notoriously cold woman known for her sharp tongue and impatience. She looked down at Jack with a smirk. "Mr. Miller," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "You've chosen to represent yourself. This isn't some casual dispute. This is a custody case. Without an attorney, I can't imagine you standing a chance." A few people in the courtroom chuckled. Jack's hands tightened around the edge of the table. He wasn't used to being underestimated, but he had learned long ago that appearances often mislead people. He looked at the judge, his voice calm. "With all due respect, Your Honor, I've stood in places where losing meant more than custody. It meant lives. I'll do what I have to protect my daughter." The judge raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "This isn't a battlefield, Mr. Miller. This is the law." Jack gave the faintest of smiles. "I know. That's why I studied it once." The courtroom stirred, curious. The opposing lawyer launched into an aggressive attack, throwing accusations at Jack. Unstable employment, a small apartment, a history of PTSD. Jack sat quietly, listening until the lawyer made the mistake of twisting details about his service record. Jack stood. His voice, steady but powerful, filled the room. "Counselor, that's a misrepresentation of federal code. Section 123 of the Veterans Housing Act clearly states." He went on, dismantling the claim with surgical precision, citing laws, precedents, and regulations as if he had practiced them for years. The room went silent. Even Judge Thornton leaned forward. "Mr. Miller, where exactly did you learn all this?" Jack looked her straight in the eye. "Before I wore a uniform, Your Honor, I wore a suit. I was an attorney, one of the youngest admitted to the bar in my state. But when my country called, I traded my pen for a rifle. My daughter doesn't just have a soldier for a father. She has a man who knows both the battlefield and the courtroom." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The opposing lawyer fumbled suddenly on defense. Jack began presenting his case with eloquence, weaving together law, compassion, and the undeniable truth of his devotion as a father. For the first time in her career, Judge Thornton felt her cold mask crack. She saw not just a man fighting a case, but a father fighting for love. The climax came when Jack placed a small drawing on the table. His daughter's crayon sketch. 2 stick figures holding hands under the words, "Me and Daddy forever." His voice broke. "Your Honor, I don't have a big house. I don't have riches. But I have something no one can deny. My daughter's heart. And she has mine. That's worth more than anything money can buy." Silence hung heavy. Then something shifted. Judge Thornton, known for her icy demeanor, swallowed hard. She looked at Jack with new eyes, not as a struggling single dad, but as a man who had given everything twice, once for his country and once for his child. Her gavel came down softly. "Mr. Miller, custody granted." Tears welled in Jack's eyes as his daughter ran to him, clinging tightly around his neck. The courtroom erupted in quiet applause, not for a legal victory, but for a father's unbreakable bond. Later, as the crowd dispersed, Judge Thornton lingered. She approached Jack, her voice softer than anyone had ever heard it. "You reminded me today that the law isn't just about rules. It's about humanity. Thank you for your service and for the lesson." And Jack nodded, holding his little girl's hand. "Sometimes, Your Honor, the greatest victories don't happen on battlefields or in courts. They happen in hearts." And with that, he walked out. Not as a broken man mocked for his struggles, but as a hero in the truest sense, a father, a veteran, and a man of unshakable love. The sound of the gavel still echoed in Jack's heart as he stepped out of the courtroom doors. His daughter, Lily, clung to his hand, her little eyes glowing with trust and joy. For her, this wasn't just a legal battle. It was the promise that she would never be taken away from the one person who loved her more than anything in the world. As they walked down the courthouse steps, people who had been inside the trial stopped him. Some were strangers, some were veterans themselves. A man in a suit reached out. "Mr. Miller, I've worked in these courts for years. I've seen lawyers with endless resources lose cases like this. But today, you didn't just win. You inspired all of us. Jack smiled faintly, squeezing Lily's hand. I didn't do it to inspire anyone. I did it because no one, and I mean no one, will ever fight harder for her than me. He looked down at Lily, who held up her crayon drawing proudly, like it was a victory flag. And yet, as heartwarming as the moment was, something even more unexpected was about to happen. Judge Thornton, the woman who had mocked him only hours ago, was standing by the courthouse doors. She wasn't wearing her robe anymore, just a plain coat. She looked human, vulnerable, even. She approached cautiously. Mr. Miller. Jack stopped. For a moment, the weight of her earlier words flashed back. The way she had mocked him, the way she had doubted him. But instead of anger, he just waited silent. She sighed, her voice breaking. You should know, I wasn't mocking you because I thought you were unworthy. I mocked you because I've seen too many fathers walk into my court, claiming they care, and then abandon their kids when things get hard. I thought you were just another one of them. Jack studied her. And now? She gave the faintest smile, her eyes glistening. Now I see a man who reminded me why I became a judge in the first place. Not for the power, not for the authority, but to make sure justice meant something real. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then Jack nodded. We've all fought battles we don't talk about. Judge, sometimes the scars aren't on the outside. Her gaze softened. You're right, and thank you. You taught me something today. Jack didn't say more. He didn't need to. With Lily's hand in his, he simply turned and walked away. But the story didn't end there. Weeks later, Jack received a letter in the mail. It wasn't from a lawyer or from the court. It was from Judge Thornton. Inside was a handwritten note. To Mr. Jack Miller, you once said the greatest victories happen in the heart. I want you to know, you've changed mine. Because of you, I've started a new program in this courthouse. Free legal aid for veterans who can't afford representation. No father, no mother, no soldier will have to stand alone again. Thank you for reminding me what justice truly means.